All right. Can everybody hear me? Can everyone hear me fine?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
So the reason
Yes.
I wanted to talk about arnica, guys, was uh, it is the remedy everybody knows about. And if you don't have a homeopathy kit, at least you want to have arnica on hand. And who has used arnica and who has not used arnica up until now? Everybody, I think, would have used it.
I've used it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've used it. Yeah.
And
I had
tell me, Maria, what have you used it for?
Oh, um, like I have my knees have been hurting lately, so that's like a go-to thing to to take because yeah, that's when I do it.
Who else? Who else has used it?
I had
oh, go
a,
ahead.
I had an object that was kind of a little bit heavy and solid, and had kind of pointed corners. Not rounded corners, but had nice angles. And I didn't see that it was on top of a box that I was moving, and it fell right on my head, and I
Oh
ended up
my
with a
God.
big goose egg. But I'm fine. I just had a goose egg. Nothing major that I realize has happened, but I took arnica and that really helped.
Who else? Who else has an arnica story?
I'm taking it now for a broken toe, and I'm using it with both the salve of comfrey and I forget what the homeopathic name for,
Symphytum.
yeah, symphytum together um, to heal the bones.
All right. And is it helping?
It's still pretty new, so I don't know yet. I'm also taking Inflamiar, which is a kind of it's a spagyric version of Trameal with
Hmm.
I see. I see.
and it's supposed to cut down on the inflammation, but it's kind of a bad break, so uh I think it's helping. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. And which toe is it? Big toe, small toe?
It was my little toe on the left foot, which I've broken before, and so it's already shorter and kind of goes in at an angle.
I
And
see.
so rather than having a toe with a break that just sort of is on its own, it's constantly bumping up against the other toe, which with a break, kind of exacerbates it a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I broke my toe too a few months ago. My right second smallest toe, I broke the metatarsal in a spiral fracture.
Oh,
And I went to India and it was still, I thought it was the airplane, then I thought it was, and then it was still hurting. I got it x-rayed. He said, Madam, you have a spiral fracture. And it's called a
Mm.
dancer's fracture. Women tend to have this more. And in their metatarsals, dancers have it and women after menopause. And it appears circulation is lower in the toes. And so, blood doesn't get to it. So it doesn't heal as fast either. But the second I took arnica, ruta, some phytum for it, it would stop throbbing and hurting. And it's
oh,
healing nicely, but it's slow. It's not fast.
how much root?
I had a ruta low potency. Ruta low potency, arnica, so ruta like 6C or something. Um, the arnica was also X potency, 30X or something like that. And I was taking calfluor as well. And symphytum, of course, symphytum 200C.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And it really helped. It really helped. But arnica is something that's been known for centuries as bruisewort. In fact, it grows in mountainous territory where, people, animals fall down, and when animals hurt themselves, goats and such, they automatically are attracted to eating this plant. And so
Oh,
it behooves us to develop the intuition to do this ourselves. We often do. Many of you often do. You know, eating things around us that make it okay for whatever condition we're in. but arnica has been known for centuries. My big story of arnica was I was gardening a few years ago, and a big wheelbarrow full of dirt fell on my leg.
Ooh.
And I cannot tell you how painful it was. My entire leg turned black, my calf turned black and blue. I was just dazed with pain. I crawled up the deck to the house and grabbed I think it was 30X, an arnica, put it in my mouth, and I literally had a buzzing sensation in my body. The pain left to me, and I was able to take the dogs for a walk. And I think I talked about it before, but it was incredible. It was incredible. You always wonder, how does homeopathy work? Does it work? And then one day you have this sudden surprise, you know. And arnica is one such thing that surgeons use when you do facelifts, that your skin heals 70% faster. Burn victims, people on what is that running biking race, Toulouse, the French running a biking race where you're not allowed, you're
The
not
Tour
allowed.
de France.
Tour de France.
Yeah.
What do the athletes take? Arnica. They can get up the next morning, and then continue to bike, and the soreness just melts away, and it's miraculous. And so arnica has an effect on non-burst blunt trauma skin. So if your skin has burst, if you have scraped your skin, arnica is not your remedy. Your remedy is then something like a calendula. But if you have hurt yourself, if you've banged yourself, and we do it all the time if we're leading a busy life or gardening or running around, there's nothing like arnica to cool and soothe those bruises and also get you well faster. And arnica is it's not just for injuries, it's for fevers where you don't want to be touched. If the bed feels too hard, when you don't want to see the doctor and you can clearly see this person is dying of fever, arnica is your remedy. Arnica is great for pimples on your face that are very painful. Arnica is great for things that are related to etiology. So I'm trying to make a gallery here, but I can't, so I can see your faces. But I think it's going to be not very useful because it's going to.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You know how I feel about words.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talked about arnica is found in the mountains, and you talked about the goats, and you said it behooves us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking of our hooves, what we need. I call myself a mountain goat because in the studio I have to be able to climb over things and so on. But there are no accidents with languages. I love it that you use that word because somehow it behooves us to use arnica.
I didn't even think of that, man.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then, can everyone see this? I have got this word document up.
Yes.
Yeah. So anytime you're faced with pain, guys, what's Advil, ibuprofen, fever reducers like that? What are they gonna do? What the painkillers are doing is they're actually increasing the amount of time it's going to take for your injury to heal, your headache to heal, your wound to your blunt trauma to get better. What arnica is doing is it literally heals it 70% faster. And they've done side-by-side studies where they have looked at people not treated with arnica and surgical patients treated with arnica. And there was no question about who got better faster. The other thing is any allopathic drug that you take. I have a friend here who's got severe ulceration in her intestines. After surgery, they give you these ibuprofens and Advils and so on, and they literally make wounds in your intestine. And there are people who have to get their intestine resected because that ulcer turns into a septic ulcer. It turns into peritonitis, and pretty soon you've got sepsis in your body. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous to use drugs that are that are extremely toxic with toxic long-term effects for a long, long time and huge amounts and quantities. You can never mess up with arnica. So if you have nothing else in your arsenal, please keep arnica in your purse, in your pocket. It's a useful thing to give to. It's great for shock if you have mental shock, mental trauma. You're in an accident, in a concussion. Arnica will prevent downstream longer term effects. If you see someone with an epileptic seizure, all you need is an arnica. If that's the remedy you have in your pocket, use it. There may be finer remedies, but arnica will do. And so we're going to talk about a few cases that I extracted from all the literature. And the first case is about a small kid. This is the story by a homeopath by the name of Samantha Spenkley, sorry, not Spensley. It's a Nintendo pen. So this is the homeopath who was assisting with the healthcare of a family for over 3 years now. And they called her one night while she was making a house call to another family. And she was stepping on the porch when the mother called. She was frantic. Her 2-year-old had poked himself in the ear and possibly injured his eardrum with a Nintendo DS pen. So you know what a Nintendo pen is, right? It's a handheld game with a console that has a very specific plastic pen that you use on the screen. The mom was panicked. The child was screaming. She was on the way to her next appointment. And she told her to give her arnica, the child arnica, 200C every 15 minutes. And then she would come over after her appointment. And so when she got to the house 15 minutes later, guess what happened to the child? It is curled up on its father's lap, in a blanket, under a blanket, with a painful look on its face, tears streaming down his cheeks. According, I'm reading this. The child is very mischievous, rambunctious, and resilient, but the look on its face was otherwise on this visit. And so it was pink. It had discharge from the pee and black this time. He was suffering in his inner ear. Black discharge means black blood is coming out. The parent said he had 6 doses of Arnica 200 at this point, and he had gone from intensity of 10 with the pain to about a 7. So the homeopath races home, got Arnica 1M, and returned to the house. By then, it's nearly 9 o'clock, and the child has now been in pain for 2 hours. Okay. So she tells the parents, no matter what time it was during the night, that they call her even if they were choosing to go to the hospital, because you got to go to the hospital if things don't progress. So she wanted to be able to guide them along the way. Well, the next morning came without a midnight wake-up call, and in the morning I called the family for an update. And in her words, the mom said she gave him the Arnica 1M once after I left, and he fell asleep and didn't wake up through the night. What does didn't wake up through the night mean? Can anyone guess?
No pain.
No pain. In homeopathy, when a person doesn't wake up after they've been in severe pain or trauma or suffering or a fever, that's a very good sign. Whereas when you're in a hospital, they're waking you every 15 minutes with tube lights on to put drugs in. The lack of sleep alone kills half the patients, in my opinion. Anyhow, the child went to sleep. Yep.
I just want to say something about if they don't wake up, because I remember one of the years that I had a concussion that we were working with paving stones and they were all mossy and I fell backwards and I banged my head against a stone wall and I had concussion. And they said, I was told, do not let her sleep because there was this famous movie actress that was skiing and she banged the back of her head. I guess there's a place right at where the spine meets the head.
And the head meet occiput and the lower occipital area.
Anyway, she said, I don't want to go to the hospital. Just let me sleep. And she never woke up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are times that
Yeah.
not waking up from the sleep, that you really need to check the person, and there's certain times you don't let them sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would make the distinction if the person has taken a homeopathic remedy, multiple doses, and then goes to sleep. That's a very
Uh-huh.
good thing.
Okay.
So yes, yeah,
Thank you.
definitely, absolutely, totally. If they fall unconscious, that's not a good thing at all. They're probably unconscious. And so this kid used to be a restless sleeper at night, but he slept through the night. Then she asked her to bring the child to her office so she could check it out for herself. And once she brought him in, he was smiling and laughing, running around as if nothing had happened. She
Okay.
asked him to let him see he cocked his head in anticipation of me looking in. And I tell you, it was pink with yellow discharge again. I
Oh,
asked him how he felt, and he said, good, with thumbs up. A week later, I spoke with the father, and he said his son is being his normal, mischievous self, and there's not any residual effect from the Nintendo pen. Gotta love
great.
homeopathy and arnica. So with my nephew, who is a bundle of energy, there have been so many scrapes and falls, I cannot tell you. And when that happens, uh, sometimes I wonder if it's placebo or arnica, because the second I pop an arnica into his mouth, his tears, they're like tears shining, sparkling on his cheeks, and he smiles. Is it because I'm giving him a sugar pill, or is it because he's conditioned to think arnica will stop the pain, or does it really stop the pain? I don't know, but you gotta love arnica. For my granddaughter, Seema had put her down to sleep. This was at 4 months of age. And I have no idea how she crawled to the end of but I had told Seema, this is when they start crawling, put stuff around her. And she said, oh, no, she's not even moving a foot. She crawled to the end of the bed and fell down head first. And she had a goose egg. And Seema called me in a panic, crying, SOS, mom, come right away. And we gave her arnica, and the goose egg just melted away. She was wailing and howling. And like 2 doses of arnica, she was quiet. By the 4th dose, it had subsided. It was, oh man, it was black and blue and bad. But she did get concussion, no lasting effects. And that's one of the things you want to remember. I'll talk about a case that Kopikar, an old Indian homeopath, had, where a woman came to him complaining of vomiting blood, and she had been doing it for several weeks, and they had tried everything. They had taken her to doctors, and then they said, we're going to open her up for surgery. We don't know what it is. And so Kopikar went to her house because she was laid up and puking blood. And he said, what happened? What started it? So she said, this started about 5 or 6 months ago. And I don't know why. And all of a sudden, I had bad stomach pain and I started bleeding. And he said, but what happened 5 or 6 months ago? What happened? So etiology is very important. Etiology means, anyone tell me what etiology means?
It's looking at the forces of what.
Yeah,
what
causes.
Yeah.
It's just a fancy name for causes. So he was trying to dig for the causes, and the servant came by, their maid servant came by and said, she was playing badminton, and I think in the neighboring court there was people playing tennis, and the tennis ball hit her very hard in her tummy a few months ago. And he goes, bingo, I got my etiology. He gave her high doses, I think arnica 1M or 10M of arnica. The bleeding stopped, the vomiting stopped. She was back in business in 2 days.
Mm.
And so
the what Sunshine was saying, that's Natasha Richardson, Liam Neeson's wife, who died, and
Right.
it was a skiing accident. She hit her head,
Yeah.
and she actually refused medical attention.
Right.
So it's really sad. It's her own fault for being pride or didn't want to inconvenience anybody. So I also just wanted to say that, because she did go to bed and she did die, and ever since then, people who ski on slopes wear helmets now. But she refused. Like they said, oh, let's take, and she didn't want to. So that's another thing, you have to ask for help, or
And
don't
that's
be prideful,
exactly, that's one of the rubrics of Arnica. One of the
Yeah.
rubrics of Arnica is the person looks completely bemused, confused,
Yeah.
and they say, I am not hurting.
Yeah.
I don't need help. When someone says that, they need help.
Yeah. So that, I just wanted to point that out. Yeah. And it's a sad story, but
Yeah.
hopefully people have learned from that too.
And this happens in concussion a lot and
Yeah.
ski accidents. So Joette Calabrese, the famous homeopath, she had 3 boisterous kids and they used to ski a lot and they would fall down and concuss their heads. And for them, the remedy was arnica followed by natrum sulfuricum. Natrum sulfuricum is an excellent remedy for concussion. So one of her boys had a really bad fall. He got up, he walked home, he looked dazed, and Mama said, what's wrong? He said, nothing, I'm fine. But he looked very dazed. And when that happens, you want to give arnica plus natrum sulfuricum because that is a very good concussion remedy. And if you don't treat concussion right away, you can cause death, bleeding, death, anything, any kind of internal bleeding, arnica.
And I want to clear one thing about that accident and my accident. It was the back of my head that I hit, and it was above where it connects with the spinal cord,
Yes.
And I don't know about hers, but when I told someone what happened, they said they had a horse that reared up as it was being loaded onto a van, a thing for carrying horses, and it hit that part of its back, the back of the neck right by the head, and it was immediately out. And they said that's actually not, I don't know, karate, a martial arts point.
Yeah, karate chop. That's where you place the karate.
So just be aware that you have to be careful in the way you get your concussion.
Always back of your head. And an arnica patient will always tell you, don't get the doctor. Nothing is wrong with me. That is a sign of severe either shock or concussion or pain or fever. And when that happens, that's one of the keynotes of arnica. Administer arnica when they're looking obviously confused.
Thank you.
Let's see. Another case, the bumper cars. This is the homeopath Samantha Speckley cites another case. A patient calls her in distress about her son being hit from behind while, those bumper car rides at carnivals?
Yeah.
The child was not talking. So the child didn't actually fall on the ground, but he was clearly concussed. He wasn't talking. He was angry. He was refusing to take arnica, so craziness sets in. And the mom was attempting to give to him. He said that he was on the ride with his father, and when they got off, even the father's head was sore. Okay, so both of them obviously got whiplash from the bump. Father took a dose, but their son was refusing assistance. While they were talking, the mom paused and then returned to the phone saying that his eyes were blacking out, that he was getting a bruise mask. So the homeopath warned her that's likely he's suffering from acute concussion and that she must get the remedy into him immediately. So now the husbands plug the child's nose, and when he opens his mouth, in went the arnica, 200, they had 200. They began their ride to her office for an examination, and 10 minutes into their 45-minute ride, he began to talk and tell them that his head hurt. So in the first throes of concussion, you are just shocked beyond belief. You either are acting confused or you're acting kind of crazy. Nothing happens. That's the time to take arnica and also nat sulf. I would recommend on top of this. But they had arnica only, and that is good enough. When they arrived at her office, she saw it was suffering from minor concussion. He had the darkened eye sockets extended to the bridge of the nose, all across his upper cheek. Once a concussion, whiplash can do that. So she gave him a dose of arnica, 1 m, checked his pupils, to see if they were dilated or narrowed, and his occiput, his pupils were dilated, not restricting when a light was shined on them. And that's one of the signs that you got to check for. When I touched the back of his head, he hit me. She redosed him and told the parents that he needed to be washed throughout the night. His pupils needed to shrink by the time he was well enough. And then she spoke with the parents before that time, and they said he was back to normal, fighting to go to bed and being a monkey. He did not have any common symptoms of concussion. The symptoms of concussion are listlessness, ataxia, can't move certain parts of your body, and loss of appetite. He ate his dinner, lustily. He was chatty as usual. Even the blackening of his eye socket was non-existent. It seemed all was back to normal before bed. But I said that they should redose once more with the same posology. Posology means potency. And we should still check his pupils during the night if there was any change. Well, I'm happy to say the mom says that the next morning the pupils were restricting at each hour check. They were all tired and wanted to sleep in the morning. After the last dose before bed that night, the little guy didn't need any other assistance. He was back to normal, high energy self. It was the same report a week later. And so imagine this for boxers, Muhammad Ali, athletes who don't take arnica after their boxing matches. The concussion continues and it literally fries their brain by the time they're 40 years old. If you have trauma, arnica is the most effective remedy for reviving the body. So I keep arnica 30x. I keep arnica 200C. I keep arnica 1M. I keep arnica 10M. But whatever arnica you keep, just keep an arnica on hand. And if you feel you're having a heart attack, if you are shocked, if you're traumatized, if you have a traffic accident, if you have grief, if someone punches you, if someone swears at you, arnica is a wonderful, wonderful one-shot remedy.
So I know you've mentioned, Sushma, I know you've mentioned aconitum if you feel like, you're having a heart attack or something like that. Does that go along with arnica?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it'll vary by person. So if you have many small children, arnica has to be your keep everywhere remedy. Aconite is a wonderful remedy for shock. I keep aconite at all times. Even when I hurt myself, I just take an aconite because I'm so shocked. I keep aconite for airplane rides. I keep it in my change purse. And so, but arnica is a universal remedy. Everybody knows arnica. And if everybody had arnica, there'd be a lot less long-term effects of concussions, permanent brain damage, because what it's doing is it's taking clotted blood and it is the speed at which your vessels and your bruises, internal or external, heal is super important because that determines whether you live or you die, whether blood flows to your brain or not. And especially with concussions, it's absolutely critical. People with MS will fall down. Keep arnica on hand and nat sulf on hand. Soon as that happens, open it. First thing you do is pop it or tell a passerby, hey, there's arnica in my pocket. Could you feed me? Absolutely critical. If you fall down and have a fracture, nothing like an arnica to take away the shock and accelerate the healing. This is the story by Jenny French, another homeopath, Great Dane bite. This homeopath is called to a home where the students are baffled by this. A Great Dane breeder called Mary, so she breeds Great Dane, had stuck her face in harm's way by breeding during a breeding. So, guys, mama dogs, mama cows, nothing more dangerous than these. If you come between them and their baby, they will kill you. Happened to me. You should watch my Gored by the Car a cow video from 2 years ago. Anyhow, during a breeding, she stuck her face. She was bitten by the female. Now, muzzling is a standard procedure during breeding because these dogs can do a lot of damage. But she got bit. She didn't muzzle. She got 4 punctures, 2 deep gashes on both sides of her face. But the plastic surgeon did an excellent job and was able to heal the scar. But at that moment, the 2 students were perplexed because they had given Arnica 200 immediately on the basis there's a trauma remedy. It worked for a while and then stopped. They repeated the dose and nothing happened. Why? The breeder's face was swollen when this homeopath walked in, but she was still cranky, golden pink fluid coming out of her wounds. She made an exclamation of, "Oh no, someone else." And when she walked in, "I'm fine, leave me alone." The minute someone says, "Leave me alone," what is that a sign of? That's a sign that they're deeply concussed and they're an Arnica case.
Mm.
After a moment, she recanted and she let her come in, but she could only stay a few seconds. So that's how she knew that the remedy was still Arnica. It was not anything else. When the person says, "I am fine," and they look like hell, look like shit, that's an Arnica case.
Mm-hmm.
So classical work, she's saying, is never routinist, but there are a few laws of practice outside of the organon. One being that the remedy has worked and stopped. When the remedy works and stops, you apply a higher potency. You never leave a remedy that is working. If it was working and it stopped, don't go to a new remedy unless the symptoms have changed dramatically until you've tried a higher potency. So she gave a higher potency, and of course she got better. So there's a hierarchy to choosing a potency. It's not ironclad, but as common people, we will figure it out. And the best way to figure it out is when you're having this problem, nothing works, and you look like this. You can do it for your friend. You can do it for yourself. And so new homeopaths who are still, or new people new to homeopathy, who are still figuring out, "Oh God, I tried it and it didn't work." After a while, increase the potency. So she went to a higher potency and the person was fine. So for 30C, you give 30C in a very physical application, as Sunshine had said. Was it Sunshine or was it Maria? Who was talking about this just now? One of
I was.
You were.
I was, yeah.
Low potency in a very physical application, higher potency, higher physical, mental, and emotional body coming into the mental room, and 10M for mental, spiritual body. It's also a good idea to continue to raise the potency. So Mary had already taken 200C. So what did she give her? She gave her a 1M. She immediately got an aggravation. She got a bad headache. And she asked everybody to go downstairs. She needed to sleep. But what does an aggravation mean? It means it's getting better. So she told everyone to go to sleep. To go downstairs, she needed to sleep. She went to sleep, which is a very good sign after you've taken a homeopathic remedy. And she got better very quickly. And going to sleep, remember, this is what the body does to repair. In fact, that's the only way to get rapid, deep healing. We need our sleep. The body only heals, restores itself when you are in deep sleep. And what this is doing is your body naturally goes into a state of rest after it recognizes that it needs to heal. And Arnica will accelerate that. If his wife, Natasha Richardson, had taken Arnica, I guarantee you this would not have happened.
Yeah. So I have a strange,
I
I have a strange question.
Sure.
Because I've studied so many different things. Um, because I've studied like urine therapy.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you've been taking the remedies and maybe it seems like it stops working for a while, the, is your urine a water remedy, water solution remedy? Because some of it will go through your urine, through your system. And is it a good idea then to be able to think about, you know, trying out the urine therapy to see if that helps and if that is potent?
Absolutely.
And it's something that we can talk, and we can think about it later and talk about it later or something, but it's something that came up as a question for me now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Urine therapy is amazing. In fact, Burnett used urea. You know, when you get gout, when you're either on a very high protein diet or a sudden change in diet, or you have stressed out your joints from gardening, you get this bone spur. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's very painful and inflamed, and I get them all the time because sometimes I forget while gardening to rest. I take lead and belladonna, the pain goes away, and over time the bone spur disappears. But urea, which is urine potentized, is a great remedy to get the gravel out of your joints.
Okay.
So what you do, let me tell you the recipe for making your own remedy, the best kind. Take midstream morning urine,
Mm-hmm.
a tablespoon, put it in a jar, put in 10 tablespoons of water, succuss it 20, 30 times. Take 1 tablespoon of that, put in another 10 tablespoons of water, succuss that, do that 10 times. So you have a 10x or a 6x. And that is your remedy, especially for gouty troubles, for kidney related stuff. It is a fantastic remedy. If you have bright spots, if you have diabetes, if you have to get the stuff, your kidneys working well.
Mm. Okay. I've seen the urine therapy for jellyfish sting. The leg was swollen so thick, and the skin was so taut. You were worried the person's leg was going to explode, and they not only took internally the urine, but they kept peeing on it, and it just disappeared within
It
an
is,
hour time.
yeah, it's fantastic for bites and stings and bruises. You're nothing like your own urine. Also spit. If you get a mosquito bite, my grandson spits on it, rubs it, and the mosquito bite does not swell up or anything because the enzymes in the spit dissolve the poison, the toxin, and the mosquito bite.
Hmm.
So it looks kind of gross, but it works really fast. So when my granddaughter got bitten to death by mosquitoes, the poor thing got bitten to death in Goa. I said, let me spit on her and fix it for her. And he did, and they went away.
Mm-hmm. Wow. One other thing, since we're talking about like topical, like skin type things, you mentioned if you have trauma, but if the skin's been broken, that that the arnica works for the trauma, but not for the broken part. But I used to be around people that seem to keep having like motorcycle or bicycle accidents, and when they had big abrasions on their leg and so on, not only did they take the arnica for the trauma, but they chewed up comfrey and made a poultice on the scraped area, and the scraped area just healed so fast.
Comfrey is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So if in a pinch you find that you have this problem, you can chew the comfrey and put it on your wounded area, okay? Or you can wilt it in a pot of boiling water and then layer it on top of your bone break or skin break or whatever, and then saran wrap it. Those are 2, 3 ways to do it. But yes, your bruise warts and your comfreys, you're in a good place in life. Another very good remedy for gout or joint pains in particular, arthritic joint pains that are due to, gouty attacks, what they call gouty attacks, is Urtica urens, which is stinging nettles. Fantastic. If you have trigger fingers that are created by nodules in your thumb, Diabetes will often cause deposits of mineral in your joints. So take nettle tea, and in 3-4 weeks, that thing should just disappear.
Hmm.
It's Arnica urens, and surprisingly, it grows in wild places. Guess where it grows? It doesn't grow in the jungle. It grows near sewage, where human sewage comes out. So it
Oh.
eats up urine. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. So Urtica urens is great. You make a tea out of it. You can take a mother tincture 4 times a day. But if you have joint pains, try these things. Your P potentized, and that's called an autologous sarcode, meaning part of your own body turned into a remedy. Do not underestimate the power of it.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Urtica urens grows in Sunshine's community garden. There's a lot growing. Remember, they told us to take it out.
Yes.
I'm thinking, give it all to me, but I
Yeah.
couldn't keep it all. But it is a very, very medicinal plant. Do
Yeah.
you have nettles growing any place in your area, Sunshine, that you know of?
I don't. I have some nettle. I have some seeds that I was going to plant, but I have nowhere to plant them.
Oh,
So
people will kill you if you try and plant seeds.
I know.
It's such a good plant. And same thing with plantain. Your plantain herb, tea made from that is so good for the kidneys. Anyhow, I digress. These kinds of injuries are helped by a lot of different things.
What if you have an injury that results in like a nodule in the joint?
That's exactly it. Urea and urtica urens.
Because I eat a ton of nettles and I still have this. Maybe.
Try eating a succussed remedy. So
Okay.
make nettle tea and
Okay.
make 6x or something out of it
Okay.
by the same methodology, and take it 3-4 times a day, and it should resolve. Also, there's a remedy called thiocyanamine. And let me see if I can put it in chat to everybody. Message everyone.
Thank you.
Thiocyanamine. This is a remedy that'll cause scar tissue or detritus to dissolve. So take a low potency of thiocyanamine. And if you are a faller, if you are a person that falls, please keep arnica with you, natrum sulf with you, thiocyanamine with you, urea with you, urtica urens with you, so that you apply it immediately. It'll dissolve. If it has been around for a long time, try aurum metallicum, 50 m.
Okay.
For bone exostosis, things that have kind of gelled, it'll help to take them out.
I actually developed in all of my joints these bumps, and I had surgery like, I don't know, 8 years ago that did not go well on 2 of the fingers because it became like a ganglion cyst.
Yeah, yeah.
But then recently, like about 6 months ago, I tripped in a restaurant and I grabbed a metal shelf and my finger got kind of twisted around the wrought iron. And so I don't know, should I take the thiocyanum for that now?
When was it again? How many
About
weeks?
6 months ago, I would say.
6 months ago. Yeah, try taking thiocyanamine briefly to see if it helps, but aurum metallicum 50 m, very high potency, or LM potency, CM potency. Take a dose, let it wait for 5-6 weeks and see what happens. But the key here is right away. The other thing is diet. A high protein diet will tend to produce gravel or tissue deposits in your joints more. People on carnivore diets, people on low carb, high fat, and high protein diets. That's the risk. And you want to ameliorate it by eating the right, green juices or something to dissolve that stuff. So lifestyle is super important as well.
So you just take the CM one time and then see
And
what
wait for a few minutes. Yeah, a few weeks. Sorry.
wait a few weeks. Thank you so much.
And so nodules how did we get to gout? Because they're so painful. When I garden with just one thing, I'll do repetitive motion and I will get an inflamed joint and it swells up, the joint swells up. That inflammation is Ledum belladonna, 30 Ledum 30C, belladonna 6C, works like magic to take away the pain. But if there is a nodosity, which is to say your bone has deposits on it, take things like urea, urtica urins, along with arnica, along with ledum belladonna, as indicated. But those are fantastic remedies. But mainly change your lifestyle. You're probably getting too much protein and not enough stuff to dissolve your kidneys, beyond your kidneys' ability to metabolize it. Trigger finger. Frequently, trigger finger happens from tendon, but the tendon could be on top of a nodosity. That is why it's hurting, because it's stretched. So check your joints to see what the cause is. And so, folks, etiology is super, super important. Causation is very important and will cure 80% of the problems if you arrive at the right cause.
You know it's interesting. I used to have a couple of trigger fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have no kitchen here where I am, and my eating has really changed, and I mainly have soups and stuff. I've lost a bunch of weight in my hands as well. I had a ring that fell off 2 times this past 2 weeks, and I fell off, and if someone hadn't noticed it, I would have not ever gotten the ring back. But the trigger fingers are gone with the loss of weight.
Fantastic.
So,
Fantastic.
so now I'm realizing from what you said, it's that my diet it's not that my weight has changed, it's that my diet has changed and my trigger fingers have healed.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, if you eat cooked meats, you're much more likely to have deposits. If you eat raw meat, none of this stuff happens.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And diet will make a huge difference. Trigger finger is caused by glycation. Glycation means the joints get sugared up, caramelized. And as the blood sugar, with the change in diet, if your blood sugar goes down, your joints become fine again.
Good. Yay.
So this lady who was bitten by the Great Dane she went to sleep, and downstairs the family and students launched into speculation. Is she gonna die? She's gone to sleep. This is exactly your point, Maria. And I reassured them she would be fine in just a little while, because the group thought she had made it worse. But understand that once you have administered homeopathy, the whole game changes. And an hour later, Mary emerges from the bedroom looking refreshed, grabbed her child, and swung her laughing through the air. The end to a great story of a bite by a Great Dane, which reminds me of a child 2 years ago, a year before last in Goa, 6-year-old, that was bitten by a Rottweiler. She was working in this person's house, brought her son along. He had previously bitten the owner's sister, so the owner's friend's sister. So the friend owned that dog and gave it away to this guy, and now the dog was biting other people. He bit the kid, ripped out his carotids, and the child died in hospital. If she'd had arnica, if she'd had calendula or any homeopathic, the child would have been saved. Keeps you from dying in dire situations.
Great.
Okay, and so what happened with Mary was the suppuration had stopped, the swelling was gone, headache was gone, and all that was left was happiness and freedom from pain. The next story is the story of a Jack Russell, paralysis, seizure, and kidney failure. So this doggy, and it's wonderful to practice homeopathy on a animal, because you can see the effects. Animals are not as drugged out, not with all these layers of stuff on them. They react very well and very beautifully and very fast to homeopathic remedies. So here's this Jack Russell. He was 7 years old and frozen. Meaning his joints were seized, his legs were seized. In addition, his kidneys were starting to fail due to 6.5 years of an anticonvulsant drug, the side effect of which was paralysis, Dilantin. This doggy couldn't walk, he couldn't lie down, he couldn't get up, he couldn't bend to drink water, and so on. And his owners had taken him for what's the standard remedy applied in any doctor's office for a paralysis of any sort or swelling of any sort?
Cortisone.
Cortisol, yeah, cortisone shots. And as soon as the drug wore off, he would freeze up again and stand still, whining. And to give more cortisone might damage the liver and the kidneys. So that's why they called this homeopath, Jenny French, because they were planning on having him put down. They couldn't do anything. Standard medicine had no answers to him. And so what works in a dog will work for us. And that's what Jenny says. This similarity is why, tragically, we test all of our newly developed drugs on dogs. We test them on dogs, guys, and we may see how long it takes for a dog to die on that given drug. It's a shame we homeopaths are not given the same freedom to work on humans as with dogs, because if we were the same results, the same results could be expected. Anyhow, there was an answer in the backstory, and now we're talking about etiology or causation. As a young pup, this owner had accidentally rolled over the poor dog. All over him. They rushed him to animal hospital. The surgeon did a great job and fixed him up. But instead of using a heavy plaster on this tiny pup, he was pinned together, like with pins. It worked very well. Skipper was given pain medication, and within a few days, he was back up and running around. He was also given, he was never given the bacterial probiotics. So when you give dogs antibiotics, it's the death knell for dogs. It truly is. As soon as that happened, he started having seizures. First one day, then 3 in a day, then he had a day of repeated seizures. He was rushed back to the animal hospital, and it all probably cost $10,000, and he was put on Dilantin, an anti-seizure med. Now, Jenny, if she had not thought about etiology, she would have prescribed for the seizures, because that's what he was having. He didn't have an accident then, he had seizures. She would have failed to figure out it was an Arnica case, because Arnica is only grade 2, and she would have gone off in the wrong direction. This is where your experience matters, and you have to think back intelligently. You got to sleuth, guys. Why did this happen? When did all this start? It started when he got run over by the car. He started on those medications. He started having seizures. It was the accident that caused it. That was the proximate cause of this problem. Arnica, accident, being squashed, Arnica. So from a classical perspective, it made sense. He had been given Arnica montana immediately after the surgery. Had Skipper been given Arnica, he would not have been taxed to this point. He would have recovered really, really well. Instead, he was given antibiotics. She doubts if he would have even developed the seizure. So part of the problem is we will never know what might have been, but we can speculate that if he had had all these things, and go to YouTube someday and Google this dog that got run over by a car. He was flattened like a pancake. And they go to this animal veterinarian, this Sardarji Singh, I'm forgetting his first name, but Dr. Singh. And he gave Arnica, they gave him the dog Arnica, and it's running around, no problems. But because he was given, all these anti-seizure meds, antibiotics, he just got worse and worse. His immune system broke down, and he never recovered from the trauma. So that means he still needed the Arnica. She gave him 200 C because it was, in her mind, a high enough potency. And it was a very physical damage. And the results, excellent. The next day, this dog that was going to be euthanized was running around. There's no cortisone in his system. And she didn't hear about it until 3 days later, because the clients didn't call her right away because they couldn't believe it was really happening. And they say, I better wait to be sure before I call my homeopath. And they said, by golly, he's well again. We don't need to kill off our dog. The skipper lived to tell another tale.
I noticed with Leela that she would choose, even if I had like several different ones next to each other, she could differentiate and pick the ones that she felt she needed. So they get really in tune with homeopathy. It was really interesting to see how
Absolutely.
she developed a real sense of which ones she needed. Sometimes I didn't know, so I let her choose, and it really made a huge difference. So
Guys, we need to stop a moment here to pay our respects to Victoria and her beautiful, beautiful Lila. She passed away. Victoria, tell us about it. Tell us how it was, and tell us how you're feeling, my friend.
yeah, okay. It's a little hard to talk about, but
We love you.
thank you. I've been taking a lot of Ignatia.
Yes.
Um, so Alila was my little service dog, but she was like a daughter to me, and she was really a special dog and just made everyone feel so loved. And she just was kind of a natural healer. And even in church, she would go and sit with certain people that, needed some comfort. And then she'd go to the next person, and she would do this with people in our community. And she just was a very special little dog. And we had a really magical life together and lots of amazing experiences that are kind of incredible. And she was attacked by a coyote on her birthday 3 years ago, and her best friend moved to Colorado, and she had had a heart murmur when she was a pup, and then when her friend moved, the heart murmur came back, and I had been giving her a lot of heart meat, but during COVID we had a hard time getting heart meat. And so I think all those things were sort of the etiology. And then this on her birthday in the morning, we had found out that the heart murmur had gone from a 1 to 2 to a 3 to 4. And then in the evening, we took her to the ER because she was attacked by the coyote. And it was a lot of scare tactics from the cardiologist and a lot of interest in poisoning my dog with their drugs. And if anyone has a pet, I cannot recommend Maureen McMichael through New Biology enough. And she made really great recommendations, like for the instead of using the furosemide, which it creates, so there's a buildup of fluid in the heart, and the furosemide damages the kidneys and the lungs. And so instead, she said, give her powdered dandelion greens. It won't have any of the negative effects. And I would make a paste with that and raw butter. And then she also taught me acupuncture points if the dog stops breathing. And then, so it was actually a very difficult death. Leela was so happy when I revived her, and I couldn't not do anything, but I revived her many, many times. And so it was a very long, difficult, emotional. She died at home with me. An animal communicator who's also a vet said that she didn't want to go back to a veterinary clinic. And but I said goodbye to her so many times thinking it was the last day. And it
it was very hard, and she was just so sweet and precious. So, um, she met Travis, and they really enjoyed
Hit it
each.
off. Yes, yes.
They were instant friends, and she loved you, and she loved Lotta, and I'm sure she would have loved everyone on this call.
He had so
She
much
just
spirit.
so
So
sweet.
much spirit. Yes.
Yeah, and she was fun and funny, and she just had. She's just a very happy, joyful, loving girl, and there will be never be another dog like her again. She just was really special.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Victoria, and for sending hugs out. Everybody is sending. Anyone else want to say anything to Victoria?
Sorry.
Claudia?
Mm.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. We love you and take care, my friend. Ignatia, down the road, Natra Muriaticum. Take care of yourself first and foremost. Go for walks, even though you don't have a dog. Please don't stop going for walks. Twice a day, as if Leela was next to you. The best thing you
Well,
can do for yourself.
yeah, I that was my plan, but I broke my toe, so
Oh, right, right.
uh,
After the toe is healed, or hobble around. Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I tried to get some things done yesterday, and it was too much. Even though I was walking on my heel, it just put my whole body out of whack. So I need to just take it easy for a bit.
all righty. Thank you for that. And now we're going to go back to Skipper. The biggest win with Skipper came a few days later when the vet reported that his kidneys were fine. So no more kidney failure. Now he's not on Dilantin, he's not on cortisol, he's not on anything, and his natural spirits rose and he became healthy again. And at that time, this homeopath said to the owner to talk to the vet about decreasing his drug. She did, and the dog was well again. That's the story of Skipper. Too many dogs I've seen, they get sick, they get taken to ER, they get put on painkillers, antibiotics, antiemetics, steroids, and the medicines just kill them. This is a fun story of the miracle chicken. George Vitulkas is a famous homeopath. And he was teaching homeopathy. He teaches in Greece. So he was teaching one summer at the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy on Alonissus, Greece. So he shared this story. A neighbor teaches him how to garden in exchange for George keeping the farmer's family healthy. So he gives them homeopathics and they give him food. And so they're very good friends. And then one day during class, the neighbor came by. While he's teaching class, the neighbor came by with a dead chicken. The chicken had died from fright. And because it was recently dead, he said, "Hey, George, why don't you put it in your stew pot? It's a freshly dead chicken. It died from, I think a coyote or someone came and the chicken died from fright. Oh, large dog's presence in the hen house. So the dog had not bitten the chicken, so it was in perfectly good condition. He laid the chicken on his table, on George Vitulka's table, as he was talking. George thanked him. George offered the chicken to his students because he was not about to pluck the chicken. And there were 150 international students that he was teaching. None of the students wanted the chicken. So what does George do? He opened the chicken's beak and he dropped one pellet of Arnica montana 30C down the gullet and then set the dead bird back on his desk. A few minutes passed and suddenly a big squawk. The bird was back. Oh, yes. He was not pleased to be indoors, and rising with a great beating of wings, he scattered the class notes and water glass and left post haste. And George goes, "This is the true strength of homeopathy."
Mm.
I thought that was a funny story.
Yes.
Um,
Thing.
there was a homeopath, a Canadian homeopath by the name of Manon LaRose, who relates this story of arnica for old injuries. So we talked about fresh injuries and one or two at least, that were old injuries. Skipper's case, for instance, and the woman who was bleeding vomit or vomiting blood. This is arnica for old injuries. Two cases. In the first case, there's a septuagint. An old woman called me for assistance, this homeopath. She had slipped and fallen on a slate, bruising her back badly. Remember, sunshine, remind you of something. She needed a remedy that would allow her to clean her house, set up a room for 30 people, make a buffet dinner, and make it through the evening. And at that time, it had not struck this homeopath by the state she was in. She was bent double. She was not able to get the job done due to her pain. And here she wants to lay out a buffet for 30 people. What does that indicate? What is the arnica mental emotional state?
I'm fine. I don't need any help.
Exactly. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. Don't get the doctor. That was her state while she was bent over double. Would have compelled most people to cancel the event, but she was not thinking in those terms at all. And so he guessed what the remedy was from that. She got Arnica 30C, which she had at home because everyone has Arnica 30C. He suggested she put some in a bottle of spring water and take a sip every time the pain returned. That's what I did with my 30X. Every time the pain returned, I would take it for my foot leg, with instructions to phone this guy if there was no relief, or alternately to phone him the next day to report on her success. The following morning, she reports to say that she finished all her tasks pain-free. She had her party. And then she said, will it help with arthritic pains as well? Because they seem to be gone as well.
Wow.
All the pain seemed to be gone just from sipping spring water with arnica in it. And then as she was hanging up, she said that the previous night she had dreamed of a forgotten incident. At 5 years old, she was 5 years old when she was struck by a city truck while she was riding her bike. The driver of the truck wanted a hospital examination for insurance purposes because she had been struck on the bottom, and she was having a fit of hysterics in her mother's arm, but she didn't want her bum to be examined. And so she said that at the driver's insistence, she had to go to hospital. The driver said, go to the hospital, but that might have been more traumatic to her than being hit by a truck, because you know what, people back then, hospitals were death places. And that event had been completely buried in her subconscious for 65 years.
Mm.
And then after she took the remedy, it was like that event got liberated. She had a memory. And that is what arnica does on a mental emotional level. It frees you from that injury that has shackled you for life. And this is hard for someone of an allopathic mindset to understand, that we hold injuries in our psyche. We hold grudges in our heart. We hold old memories that stymie us, that impair us, that hinder us. And when you apply the right remedy, it goes very, very, very deep.
So Sushma, if it's strictly kind of a psychological, that type of injury rather than a physical injury, is arnica also, or is there something else also with it? Because right now I'm working on the thing of trust, because hearing about Victoria's dog made me think of my favorite dog, which was run over by my uncle. And my parents told me, don't worry about it. We'll bury it in the yard and then it'll be close to us forever. And the next morning I saw the garbage men come and it was on top of their can. And that's when I started losing trust in my family, in my parents. But I'm working on gaining trust for everybody now. How would Arnica be used for that too?
Absolutely, absolutely. But Victoria's story released that memory for you. So her story was kind of homeopathic for you.
Oh, great. Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah.
I thought while I'm working.
I would say thank Leela because she
Yeah.
healed. I think that's all Leela
It's
because
Leela. It's Leela. Yeah.
this really was special that way.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Sorry, I had a thing with a cat, and my dog. My dad shot my dog, and my cat was run over supposedly by a bus, but I don't know what really happened, and so I can relate to your story. And I'm sorry that happened.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. When you see that, it's horrifying.
Yeah.
But
Well, and you can see where, as a young child, where trust becomes a broken word. It's
yeah,
just, it's and so all my life I've been working with people that I just trust, and then I'm shocked at how, what they're doing. So right now I'm working on trust is the word I'm working on for right this moment in my life. Yeah.
Staphylococcus aureus. Put Staphylococcus aureus in a bottle of water
What
and
is that?
Staphylococcus aureus. It's in your red kit.
Okay.
Staphylococcus aureus.
Okay.
I have a Reiki story.
Sure, tell
Because
us.
what you remind me of, that's kind of Reiki. I had a friend who studied it, and she came to my house, and she stood in front of me, and she didn't touch me. She just put her hands on me, or near me, and she did her thing, and she stopped. She goes, "What happened to you when you were 4 years old?"
Oh my goodness.
She just asked me, "What happened to you when you?" And I'm like, did I get dropped? And then I remembered. So from a big family, I'm the fifth child, and I had afternoon kindergarten. And so my mother didn't get the note to bring your child to morning kindergarten because the kids were all going to go to the zoo that day. So here I am showing up in the afternoon, and they're all coming back from the zoo. And I was angry at my mother for not bringing me to the morning kindergarten so I could go with everyone to the zoo. And I mean, and I remember telling the story, but then what the Reiki friend was saying was like, we've been with you, and you've been angry at your mother for 40 years.
40 years.
Oh no, yes, because but you don't think of it like that. But when I'm like, oh my gosh, and then she showed me how then you forgive her, you forgive you go through this, and then it's like it was amazing, and it was incredible. So yeah, you can do it just like that. Have Reiki done on you, and things are remembered because that person is sensing something and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's really it was huge.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's like a piece of your jacket gets snagged on a hook while you're slamming the door shut. You go back, unhook it, and things become okay again. That's beautiful.
Yeah. But
That is a great image for that kind of a moment. I really like that. I'm gonna hold on to that. Uh, thanks for sharing that. With the Sagria, can you mix that with the Arnica?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
But
How do you, is there sort of a way to know, because I know some homeopathy can cancel
yes,
each other.
antidote. Remedies,
How do you,
antidote. The best way to learn is by doing it yourself and see what happens to you. There are many remedies like aconite and bryonia. Most classical homeopaths will say, no, 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 don't mix them. But the Banerjees have done that for not 1 year, not 2 years, but centuries now, 150 years, with very good success for influenza illness. And so polypharmacy is very, very effective in acutes, especially in acutes. There's no ism that homeopathy can or should follow. The only aim of homeopathy is a rapid, gentle, and effective cure. And if taking Nux vomica and phosphorus and Staphylococcus aureus and Arnica achieve this, so be it. So never get torn up or tied up in knots over different people's ism. If it works for you, it's the right thing for you.
And speaking of Nux vomica, if you're feeling nauseated, but you think it may be related to the pain from the broken toe or something like that, would you take Nux vomica, or would you just see that as a side effect of
Arnica? Yeah, I would go to the etiology. 80% of the time, etiology will fix it. Yeah. Because having an accident or hurting yourself will cause all sorts of downstream effects. You don't want to treat those downstream effects. You want to treat the injury, and the downstream effects will disappear.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I love the idea that you've been really stressing the etiology, because then after hearing about the Reiki, it reminded me that when I was having a massage one day, I was on my stomach, and the man was rubbing my back, and he went in between, somewhere in between my shoulder blades, and all of a sudden I started to cry.
Oh.
He said, "Oh, okay, turn over," and I turned over, and all of a sudden I had the image of myself in the crib, and I was cold. My blanket had come off, and I was crying, asking for my mom to, crying for my mom to come and cover me, and she never showed up. And now it allowed me to see why I love blankets and warm jackets. And, it's interesting when we have a chance to look at the etiology, to see where our hangups or where our remedies are that are no longer needed, but, because we can work them out in other ways.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So,
Absolutely.
I was thinking that sometime with our group, it might be really interesting to work with not the physical traumas, or not the physical, well, it is a physical trauma to be cold in your crib, but
of course.
But I mean, the whole psychological thing that we could work on, with knowing the etiology of all of these things that have affected us that we've forgotten about, and how to discover them, what remedies might help with that, and so on. Because today I've realized there's so much of that.
So much, too much. Yeah. And no other form of medicine kind of recognizes it and treats it physically, like with a remedy. Shrinks will talk to you about and that's pretty good, counseling and all that. But to address something homeopathically is to go very, very deep into your back history, into your psyche, and root it out. And to forget that is just, it's criminal to forget that, and to treat whatever shows up on the very top. And it's so easy because we know when it started. We know in our hearts and souls what caused it. The day this happened is the day I started getting migraines. The day I heard this news, within 2 months I got cancer. I mean, you know this, and you can treat it and be well. And the art of homeopathy, the science of homeopathy, recognizes the causation. The thing is called NBWS. So the homeopath will ask you in case taking, what do you think caused it? When did it start? Never been well since. NBWS. And if you attack that, if you treat that, then the rest follows.
As long as you can get to the point of memory. But what about Bach flower essences? Because I know that deals with the emotional part most.
Yes.
And when I was teaching childbirth classes, I had one family, and the woman was always worried that she felt the father was like a babysitter. He wasn't really aware of what he needed to do. And he said, well, she's an overprotective mother. And so I looked at the Bach flower essences, and there was a remedy, overprotective mother. and I told them about it, and when she took it, it freed her.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe we can look at some point too a little bit of the Bach flower essences, which I think are also homeopathic, right?
Very, very homeopathic.
Yeah.
Rescue Remedies has rescued
Yes.
so many people. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. But this has been wonderful. I mean, it's been eye-opening,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's magical when you think about it, and when you think about what humans go through. There's wars, there's killing and rape and pillaging, and Ukraine, all these, the rape of Nanking, the Japanese in the concentration camps. It's just horrible things have happened to mankind, and homeopathy literally releases all those traumas. If only it was permitted at that point of great pain.
Uh-huh.
And arnica is a preeminent remedy. So if you have nothing else in your pocket to give to another human being, give them an arnica. That being said, my grandson semi-purposefully ran his bike over my foot, and I yelped in pain. And he ran and got the box and said, "Achi, here's an arnica for you." Solicitously, the little rascal. Kai, it would have been better if you didn't run it over my foot in the first place. Naughty boy.
But resourceful.
Very resourceful. And then he knows. He said, "Is there an arnica for my dad's anger, temper? What is it, Aji? I'm gonna give it to him or slip it in his water." I said, "You go, kiddo."
Wow.
So
Yeah,
cute.
so he's 6 years old and old enough to fathom these things, which is incredible.
Cool.
Anywho, the second arnica incident happened to the daughter of this same lady. By the way, we are discussing one remedy to death. Is this okay with you guys?
Yeah, it's a great remedy. I think it's nice to go into this kind of depth because you really kind of like it. I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know about other people, but I
That's
think
wonderful.
Okay. Because it brings it to life. You'll never not know what to give when these incidents occur. Once you have those pictures, the stories in your head, that's the way. And we could do the rote materia medica or the repertory or the keynotes, but they just don't stand out like a story does. So the second incident happened to her daughter. After too much physical exertion, she took Arnica 30K, which is X. The muscle pain was so severe, she had to take a sip every 20 minutes for 2 hours, or she couldn't walk regularly, normally. The funny thing was that with every sip, a pressure as of a hand at the occiput is the back of your head, would come immediately, like someone was squeezing her skin in the back of her head. And she remembered this because the sensation was very annoying. She wanted to bat the invisible hand each time. But as the muscular pain relief was so necessary, she put up with this sensation in her skull. So something was happening in her skull, guys. And you know what she dreamed that night? She was in a cave with two extraterrestrial women, one in front, one behind her, a baby keening, screaming in the far reaches of the cavern. The extraterrestrials were jabbering in a language she could not understand, but it had the speech of her mother tongue, and she found this very strange. And she remembered the dream because it had a quality she hadn't seen before in a dream. It felt real to her, not a dream or a memory, but a real thing. And she didn't really believe in science fiction, so it was funny that she dreamt about these extraterrestrials. So arnica is indicated in concussions with blindness. And so she asked her mother if she had ever had a concussion as a child. And her mother confirmed that when she was 18 months old, she had fallen backwards on the slate floor, just like Reva did. The impact resounded as far as the next room. It was like a crack of gunshot. She cried very loudly, and while holding her to console her, her mother and grandmother discussed taking her to the hospital. But they decided that since she was conscious, she was crying, that she was not concussed. Can you still hear me? I'm getting an unstable connection.
Yes.
Okay. And so the homeopath has proposed that the dream must have been the reliving of the event itself, where she felt this occipital pressure, the concussion was releasing itself. The cavern was the interpretation of the voices that must have been resonating, either due to the concussion or being held close to her mom's chest. The Keening baby was her, weeping. She must have lost sight for a short time, and the concussion blinds you and no one noticed. So it gives you goosebumps to think about these things. But the extraterrestrials was her interpretation of the intelligible jabbering because she was 18 months old. She didn't get language yet, but the lilt was familiar in the dream. She had no fear, though the events should have been strange to her. She felt very comfortable in it. So these, you have to stretch your imagination to see the bounds of human understanding and contemplation. And so for this homeopath, there's no way to prove any of this, but this explanation fits our understanding of etiology, of causation of arnica. The place where the pressure was felt with every sip corresponds to the impact of the fall. The lilt of language without understanding the word fits the age at which this kid was when this happened. The darkness, she couldn't see, the resonating voices, the lack of fear. She was in familiar arms with the possible effects of arnica concussion. And finally, the outcome of taking these repeated doses, it was only 30x. In both cases, dreaming of a past trauma would indicate a possible confirmation of healing in old trauma with Arnica 30K. Interesting.
Mm.
And a lot of times we go through life holding all these things, and then people wonder, why did this person behave so irrationally in this instance? That's what makes humans, overreact to things. So what the homeopath is saying is what this points to a more exclusive rather than universal reaction to a remedy. That the two women share genetics, so possibly this is particular to them in some way. Both had fallen on slate surfaces, though she doesn't think that weighs as heavily in favor of a probable factor. But the interesting thing is both these traumas of the woman and her child were 65 years old and 47 years old, respectively. They both dreamed of this trauma the night after repeating a dose of 30K in 500 ml bottle water, succussing twice before each dose, 3 to 5 times, and 8 to 9 times, respectively.
I think when you the this the flower essences, and then you look at a communication like this, it makes you really kind of further contemplate plant consciousness in a really beautiful way, because we think of them as being so separate from us, but they really are such a part of us, and will respect us in so many ways, and it's something that people really ignore. And so I think that that's a really beautiful part of that story.
Yeah, but they were intertwined. It's like mistletoe on a tree. You cannot separate them.
Yeah.
Another case by a very
Wait, before you go on, I don't
Mhm.
want to be talking too much, but I'm realizing I don't want to make my mom sound like like she was irresponsible or anything, but the falling, I fell out of the high chair when I was a baby.
Oh my God.
And I ended up with stitch. I have a place on my left eyebrow where there were stitches put
Holy
in.
cow.
Yeah. And I realize, now I'm looking at all these things that she let happen to me.
Oh man.
And yeah, but I see now no one's alive now that would know how it was dealt with. I obviously they did stitches, so I was taken to the hospital, but that's the only part that's evident, that
Oh
so
man. You would have
yeah.
been under 2 years old and you have this
Oh,
memory.
I was not a toddler at all. I was just in a baby in a high chair.
Oh man.
And I fell forward. They didn't put the tray in time. And
Holy.
I fell forward and banged my face against, I know.
Oh
But
my goodness.
I
Oh.
have no memory of it. But now I'm going to explore that a little bit too. But I just have to be careful not to be too angry at my mom for being so irresponsible with me.
Yeah. Staph
Yeah.
aureus in a 500 ml bottle. It'll come
Okay,
back and it'll wash out of your soul.
good. Thank you.
All right. SK Banerjee. Arnica in the case of tinnitus. Tinnitus, everyone knows that. You hear ringing in your, whistling, ringing in your ears. You don't know why. You try everything under the sun, nothing helps. So he relates a case of Dr. Chandrasekhar Kali, who was treating a middle-aged man. This man was 50 something, I guess, suffering from noises in the ear. The patient gives the history that the problem started after a ear wash by an ENT surgeon to clean his earwax by syringing water into his ears. That's when the tinnitus started. A week later, the patient develops tinnitus. So Dr. Kali interpreted this as trauma by the jet of air hitting the eardrum and the shock from such interference. Of course, it was an injury. So he did not give you a standard tinnitus remedy. He gave Arnica 200 followed by 1M, and the patient got better. He could have treated it for years and years with other remedies, and it would have failed had he not asked, never been well since. What's the etiology? So Arnica is wonderful, wonderful remedy for old wounds and old injuries and old shocks and traumas that are as yet unresolved. And now I'm going to stop sharing and share the materia medica of Arnica. Reason being, everyone should know the materia medica. And so what is Arnica montana? It's leopard's bane. It's called bruisewort. And so what they do is they, Compositae family. So the entire Bellis, Arnica, there's a whole slew of plants in this family that are very helpful in mopping up internal bleeding. And they're very good for the heart. They're very good for a lot of different things. And I was going to use the word behooves, but like the mountain goats, we need to learn to use it. Tincture of the fresh plant is used, or the tincture of the root. And you can use it for anything from all these, bunches of different things, abscesses, apoplexy, back pains. So recognize that etiology means it can be a series of things that are unrelated to that actual remedy's present manifestations. It could be pretty much anything that was started as a result of an injury, an accident. It's good for carbuncles, for bruises, chorea, which is, nervous disorders, cramps, diabetes, diarrhea, dysentery, ecchymosis, which is bruising, exhaustion. Arnica is great for soreness of muscles. The Tour de France people who've been biking for 12 hours straight, they take Arnica, the next day they get up and can bike another 10 days. Lumbago, labor, during labor, Arnica is great because you're stressing out all your muscles and the uterus and all that to avoid epidurals and Pitocin and all this stuff. Mental alienation, that's what happens when you're really injured and don't know it and say, hey, nothing's the matter with me. Or miscarriages, sore nipples, nose, affections of paralysis, pelvic hematocele, it's been used in all these conditions. Effects of whooping cough. What is whooping cough? It's an injury. It's a bruise to your lungs because you're coughing like crazy. Arnica frequently helps. In fact, I remember giving it to my grandson when he was constantly. And hey, you're injured, man. Your muscles are raw and sore, and Arnica works. Yawning. So Clark says it's a remedy that grows in the mountains. So it has an affinity for falls. It's also called Fallkraut in German. And so it's great for all sorts of traumas, the causes of traumas down the road and immediate, And so tumors in many parts following injury. So to your point, Victoria, tumor resulting from an injury, arnica taken in small doses over a long period of time, or in a large dose if sudden and of a larger nature. And plethoric faces. By plethoric, they mean red face, when you have blood rushing to your face. So read it. It's written like a novel. So I would call upon you to go to Clark's. Remedia has free Materia Medica for you to read, and it's wonderful. It's like stories, and it has stories of different things happening. Let me read one. The use of an oil mixed with arnica 1x in the case of baldness, followed with marked success. Patient had bitter taste, very excitable, worse at night. And so based on some of these modalities, Usher notes that the local use of arnica produced an extraordinary growth of hair on a limb. And so he suggested that for baldness, and it worked great. There's putridity in connection with it. It stings. Everything smells foul in an arnica typhoid patient. Putrid breath, putrid sweat if they're feverish, if they have typhoid sickness. They have a stupor. It's a kind of a stupor with involuntary discharge of feces and urine, and there's a fear of being touched. You notice that in dogs when they become, like our dog has become 15, 16 years old, and all of a sudden he kind of hurts. And so whereas he used to snuggle up to me before, now if I pet him too much, it hurts and he doesn't like it. Arnica is the remedy for that. Suddenness is a feature of arnica, pains and action. So there's a homeopath by the name of P.P. Wells who tells about a cure of double pleural pneumonia in a child. He would have sudden stabbing pains on both sides of the chest, almost preventing breathing. Arnica instantly caused a violent aggravation, and the next instant relief was perfect. The child fell asleep, breathing naturally. This guy, Dr. Clark, once ran a piece of wire into the tip of his fingers, causing paralyzing. You know, when you're poked by something, it really hurts, especially in your finger, which has so many nerves. So causing paralyzing pain. I applied Arnica 1X at once, and the pain was instantly better, seeming to be wiped out from the point of injury up the arm. That, folks, is what happened to me when the wheelbarrow fell on me. It was like this buzz went through me, and the pain just got wiped out. Arnica is worse in damp, cold weather. So coming up winter when it rains a lot, and it's included by Grawal as the remedy suited to a hydrogenate constitution. There's this constitutional description of people. It's very useful. If you're interested, you should read it. But arnica is great for wet weather, injuries, slipping, and so on. It should not be used externally where the skin is broken. For torn or lacerated wounds, calendula must be used locally. So it's so simple. It's written in plain English. Anyone can follow it. You don't need to be a PhD in homeopathy to get this, guys. It can get antidoted by certain drugs, and you can use it in relation to those. Arnica is the type of its first, includes ledum, crouton tig. It's like all these drugs. It is similar to a lot of these drugs in different actions, and you can read about them. Wine increases the unpleasant effects of arnica. If you eat arnica and drink wine, bad combination. And here we come to a very important point, which is causation. Causation is very, very important. Mechanical injuries, fright or anger, excessive venery, in female, impotence in males, etc. Just mechanical injuries, give arnica and you'll see instant results. And then it breaks the symptoms into mind, eyes, ears, nose, face. But really, injury is a wonderful thing. And pain, anywhere on the face, neuralgic pain. So arnica is a be-all, end-all good remedy to have, pain in your eyes, pain in your ears, pain in your teeth, dryness of mouth with thirst. If you have bad taste in your mouth, these are a lot of the secondary characteristics of arnica or the need for arnica. Arnica could be diarrhea or constipation, urinary organs, tenesmus, which is cramps in your ureter, pressure in the bladder, ineffectual attempts to make water. Sometimes when you put catheters, Arnica is a good remedy for injuries from the catheters. Chest, short breathing. If you have spasmodic breathing that hurts your diaphragm on your chest, Arnica is a great remedy. Sleep, drowsiness during the day without being able to sleep, inclination to sleep early in the evening, comatose. When this person falls asleep or suddenly falls asleep with a delirium after an accident or injury, consider concussion and Arnica. Fever. Fever is very important, especially when the person pulse is variable, hard and full and quick. There's chilliness internally with external heat. You're feeling cold on the inside, but your body is actually very hot. You might have redness of one cheek, chilliness on the other side. You have a sensation as if cold water is sprinkled on you. You might have dry heat over the whole body, and only in the face with the extremities cold. So frequently your head is hot and your extremities might be cold. Perspiration is foul smelling, nocturnal acid sweat. So these are kinds of things you want to be aware of. And it's very interesting to read it because here he talks about all the things that Arnica can do for you. And if you have no questions on Arnica, I'm going to stop the recording so we can have a discussion. Any questions?
I have a quick question. So with the internet connection being a little wonky, we can't read or at least I can't read the text. And then it says you are viewing your screen, but it covers up the website. So I was wondering if you could name the website. I found something similar through a European homeopathic website, but it looks like it's sponsored by Mediti, and I think that might be the company that's kind of taking over some of the the homeopathic wisdom.
The Remedia Homeopathy. I think it's a Belgian or Austrian company. They have the free
Remedia.
material. Remedia Homeopathy. Yeah. And it's
Great.
fantastic because, I have these
Thank you
3
so much.
volumes. To sift through them is hard, whereas I can search for a word in this Materia Medica. The other thing I would recommend very highly for you guys is to go to share screens. Application windows. Okay, so here I'm gonna go to, oops. It's hard for me to do this but I'm gonna do it here. Here. Do you see this? Do you see my email here? Can you see
really
this?
hard to read.
Can you now? Is it possible for you to read it?
I don't know if anyone else can, but it's I can see the larger letters of OOREP.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the place where you have repertory and materia medica, and you can do word searches. Real simple to do. Anyone have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sushma.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording now. Stop.